Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Big Love Season 5 review. This is episode 4, The Oath. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button. There may be some things that I don't discuss. If you want to discuss it, feel free to put it down below because there was a lot that was going on in this episode. For me, this episode is not just about the fallout from Christmas, but also about the importance of making sure that Bill makes it to that stage and that he is able to be sworn in no matter what it costs them, it seems. Bill, in my opinion, in watching this and seeing how he's operated over the various seasons, really believes that he has this integrity that I just don't see. I feel like because of how he was raised and because of the men that he's been around, that there is a part of him that actually feels like he's a good guy. And I feel like he misses that he has some character flaws here and there that need to be worked on, but maybe I'm missing it. You guys tell me what you think down below, because I no longer am seeing the vision that Bill is seeing. Next thing that I realized in watching this episode is that much like what we see with the Brown family, Sister Wives show, these adults never really address their problems. And because they don't address their problems, there's always this underlying tension that exists because these people haven't learned how to actually work through things. They're told to let it go, but they haven't let it go, and it bothers them and it festers until it explodes. For me, Bill has learned nothing. He is still demanding things and he's still threatening people, and he's still acting like the people around him owes him something. And what may work in your household, what may work sometimes with your business, what may work with your relatives and others, clearly is not going to work when it comes to politics. He hasn't learned anything from what happened with them at the casino. He hasn't learned anything from the fallout of them coming out as polygamists. He hasn't learned anything from Marilyn, and what Marilyn's going to end up doing to him, we still don't know because we haven't seen her again. There's a lot of things that are going on that we don't know as of yet. And I'm just interested in seeing how it all plays out, because he's a liar and all he cares about is getting what he wants, how he wants. And, this is all before he's even sworn in. So let's get into the episode. It's a few days before Bill is being sworn in. I'm telling you now, I'm going to be jumping all over the place. I'm not necessarily going in the order of the episode, but just follow me, right? So it's a few days before he's sworn in. Bill is making appearances in an attempt to boost his image and to also plead his case. He's back on the radio with the same gentleman that we saw him talk to previously, right? This time he's trying to get ahead of what Bill is saying that will reclassify polygamy and make him a felon. He feels like it's a hunt against him. It could be, but this is what he's calling it. He calls it unfair and un-American. Don't get me started on what's American and what's not. We're going to leave it out there. We're saying for the sake of the show, y'all, I really try hard to keep my whole thoughts off of this channel. So for the sake of the show, in his eyes, this is un-American. It is un-American for them to be coming up against him just because he wants to be a polygamist. So he's calling out names like Representative Midge and Senator Barnes, right? Not a good idea. You just sat there and sang Christmas carols with your kids and your wives to Senator Barnes because you felt bad for him because his wife is in the hospital. And now here you are on radio throwing him under the bus. That's not going to go well, Bill. I don't know how to tell you this, but it's not going to go well. Okay, so he's blaming the decisions that, in particular, Representative Midge is making on, the caving political pressures. They aren't worried about the pressure of politics. It is clear that Bill, they don't like you. It doesn't have anything to do with politics. It is about you. But Bill doesn't see that. So the ladies are at home. They're working in their deep freezer, getting rid of things, and they're hearing this interview. And there is tension in the room because of the whole situation with Margene being 16 when she entered into the family. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on when Margie and Bill get together. And she says for 5 years, whatever, with Nikki, meaning that the girl is probably only 21. We'll continue, right? So Nikki is barely speaking to Margene as they're cleaning out this freezer. They're still upset because she lied about her age. The subject of the fashion show comes up and Barb lies, saying that she is taking one for the team, because that's what Barb does. Barb always takes one for the team. She's just the ideal polygamous wife in making sure that she always, takes one for the team. She's giving that bird energy, the Robin energy of it all, Robin Brown, where, she just sacrifices so much for the family. And that's all that Bill seems to be seeing. He's not seeing the other side of it. So Margie wants to go to the fashion show where Nikki's like, fashion show? Like it's something that she wants no part of, So as they're getting ready to walk out, Margene is about to leave because she's frustrated. She thanks Barb for including her on cleaning out the freezer. And Nikki tells her, look, I got your little fake birth certificate. It's aged you by 5 years and you owe me $240. Don't hold it up to the light. Make sure they don't have no infrared light or anything like that if they go to look at it. So Barb is trying to present herself like she's actually okay with all of this, right? Saying it's over, Nikki. We agreed to move on, but you didn't really move on yourself, Barb. Barb, you see, does what she always does, which she is in denial. She tells herself these things in hopes that she actually believes it. She keeps sweet and it's getting old, especially because you're not really keeping sweet. You yourself are being manipulative. You yourself are lying and scheming and having your own agenda. They all are. It's just in different ways. She talks to Bill saying, there's something, that Cindy put together. And this is something that Cindy wants her to attend. And, Margene and Nikki don't want to go. They're tired and they don't really want to go. She said that she told them that she'll flag the fly on her own. And Bill's like, you're such a good wife. Yeah, it's so sweet of you to do that. I do think that it's a good thing that you go. That's the problem with all of them. They don't own their crap and they don't truly communicate with each other. And Bill truly doesn't know his wives, because if he knows his wives, he would know that certain things that are sometimes said by Barb about the wives don't make sense. And certain things that Nikki says sometimes about the wives don't make sense. It seems like out of the wives, with the exception of this big lie that Margene had about her age, those two are the ones that often manipulate situations. And they're supposed to be, the ones that are the most tied to, the LDS community. So you would think they would act, well, no, not Nikki. But my point is, they're supposed to be the ones that grew up religious. So because they're supposed to be religious, you would think that they would act differently. And then we wonder why oftentimes people have problems with religion. And it's because they see a bunch of hypocrites walking around being judgmental when they don't even talk about their own things that are going on in their own yard. I'm just saying, I understand the reality of the situation. I'm a believer, but I understand why I have friends that don't want to talk church with me. And I accept that because I get that they've been through various things. They still know my thoughts and my feelings about it. As I say many times on this channel, my thing is operate from love, but we don't see them operate from love. Everybody is operating from what is most important for them. Because let's be clear, how can you even have a healthy dynamic as a family, as a husband and wives, when your relationship is damaged because you all can't even be honest with one another? Seems like none of them have been honest from day one about various things, about their feelings, about the addition of other wives and things of that nature. Let's jump to Carolyn. So Carolyn is getting tutoring that she doesn't really need from her math teacher, Greg. She is not focusing. She tells him, that her father passed, that she thought most schools provided grief counseling for things like that, and she's having a hard time. She says her siblings won't talk to her. Now, at first I wondered why, and I think I put it in my notes, why her siblings wouldn't talk to her. But I had to remember about the books that I've read and about what was said later on in this episode. And my assumption is that they're not talking to her because they now view her as an apostate, as someone who has stepped out, as a Gentile, because she's not necessarily following the rules of the compound. She's not under their protection. She's out in the world doing horrible things with these worldly people that she's not supposed to do. So they're not willing to speak to her. So her siblings won't talk to her. She feels like she's not supposed to like that side of the family because her mother hates them. Greg tells her about his experience and how he had a brother that passed when he was just 14. And it took time in order for them to heal from the situation and from them to be able to move on. Speaking from someone who has lost a sibling, you don't ever really move on. You do learn how to navigate. And I think those of you out there who have lost siblings, friends, loved ones, parents, you know that feeling, like there's a little piece of you that is no more, because there's nothing that can fill that hole. Like it can get patched a little bit, but there's still a scab, in my opinion, that's there sometimes that, it reopens the wound. So I'm hearing this and I want her to understand, and those of you to understand out there, that it's never really over. It's not anything that you get over. It's something that you work through. My opinion, tell me yours. So he gives her his personal number and he's like, look, if you need somebody to talk to, you can talk to me. This could be seen as sweet, but it's clear to me that there's a little something else under the surface there, that he likes this girl, especially because later on, when y'all run into each other at the mall and you're with your parents are like, oh yeah, we've heard so much about you. This is the young lady that you talked about. Yeah, the one who won the math competition. And they're going on. I'm like, okay, how much are you talking about this girl? Because Heather apparently was a student too. And you didn't seem as, excited about talking about her. So I'm just wondering here, sir, Mr. Greg, what do we have going on, Teacher Greg? So Teacher Greg calls Nikki, informs her that he feels like Cara, would like some type of counseling. He feels like it would be a good idea for them to seek out counseling. Now, I may feel like there's some sketchiness there with him, but I appreciate the fact that he reached out to Nikki and let her know that, your daughter is having some difficulties. She needs to talk to someone. She's having problems processing things. It's not like her father died, in my opinion, from natural causes. Her own grandmother took her. Now, we know that she doesn't know that, but it's a lot for her to process, and it doesn't seem like she's had the opportunity to process it. So at dinner, Caroline isn't there. She's at Gary's house, which Nikki seems to have a problem with, right? Nikki informs the family about the call that she had with with Caroline's teacher. She then turns it into all these what ifs, like what if something were to happen to her? What if she were to pass? And what if this and what if that? You cannot tell me that the Browns were not watching this show. You cannot tell me that Robin wasn't a Big Love fan and Robin didn't watch Big Love with Mary and get the idea for adoption and start playing on Mary's mind through this, because I just find this to be real interesting that a lot of the stuff that we see them try and do, Big Love was doing it. And this is the last season, 2011. So it's not far-fetched that they would have been watching this show getting some ideas. I'm just saying, maybe I'm reaching, but you never know, right? So Nikki's talking about, all the what ifs, like, what if I were to pass? We need to adopt Carolyn. Bill and Barb tells her, it's too soon. She needs some time to process things. Bill tells Nikki, it's insensitive, Nikki, for us to try and come in and swoop in. It is. Marjean's like, I remember what it was like to be 15 and, I was desperate, with no father. And I would have done anything to be adopted by anyone. And I'm looking and I'm saying, Marjean, you don't realize that that's the problem. This is not Carlin's situation. Carlin has family that would want her. Carlin is not in your shoes. Nikki is talking about the fact that it's not even about that. It's about her not having a spiritual priesthood holder and blah, 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 blah. I hate that they always reference everything to this priesthood holder that's supposed to be a man, like she at no point is in charge of her own will. Like she doesn't have free will. Like she's supposed to go to this human being and ask this human being for various things when it comes to her soul salvation, whatever she believes that to be. I hate that they feel like that's something that you have to receive from a man, because a woman can't do it. It's a man. Forget the fact that Nikki, you're her mom and you're in her life. That's not enough. She needs a man to do things for her. And don't get me wrong, I love men. I do. I love men. But my thing is, like, at what point are we going to act like we can navigate this world without having to be like, oh, sir, is it all right if I do this? No, that's not my reality. So everything, right? Everything is grounded in men. Everything is grounded in men. I personally hate that they operate this way. So Bill's like, you know what? Let's revisit this after, we go through me getting sworn in. We'll talk about it then. But Nikki is Nikki. Nikki doesn't want her to go to the Walkers. Nikki is going to do what Nikki wants to do, right? So later on, as they're getting shoes together and doing whatever it is that they're doing, Nikki tells Carolyn, your teacher called. I want to let you know you could talk to me. I know what you're going through. I lost my father as well. I know what we're taught. We're taught that all our lives we're taught that what goes on in the world is satanic and things of that nature. So I know what that feels like. And Kara's like, everyone's been really nice to me. And she's like, you don't think that, we love you? We love you. And this is why we want to formally adopt you. Bill wants to adopt you. We know that Bill didn't say that. At least not till later on in the show did he say that he spoke with the attorney and they're willing to talk to him and work things out. But he didn't say that he wanted to adopt her. And it wasn't his idea. What he told you was, we'll revisit it. But Nikki does what Nikki does, and she does what she wants to do. So Carolyn wants to know why. And she's like, he wants to adopt you. And she says, okay, that's fine. And Nikki's like, just fine? Yes, ma'am, it's just fine. She's like, I was hoping for more than fine. I was hoping for great. Nikki, you get on my nerves. You get on my nerves because every single time I start to feel a little bit of sorriness for you, or I start to feel like, you know what, Nikki, you do a lot of stuff, but you hold a family down or whatever else. You do something that reminds me that you too put your feelings above others. This girl is still mourning her father. Nikki, you don't listen. What you do instead is you push and you push. When you yourself, you're lost in the sauce. You don't know where you're coming or going. You just now cut your hair. After being out of the compound for all these years, you're just now starting to do things that are outside of what they consider to be the norm. You just met your daughter. You've been out of her life for what, 14 years or something along those lines? She doesn't know you. And she doesn't know JJ to be the person that you all are claiming that he is. As far as she's concerned, her father is special. As far as she's concerned, you guys are the ones that has caused issues. Nikki, you're probably in your 30s, I'm guessing, and you're just now realizing, well, you're obviously in your 30s. You're just now realizing that your dad is a fraud. So if it took you 30 years to realize that after his death, after all the things that you know for a fact that he did, how long do you think it's going to take for this young lady who just, I don't know, in a matter of months, I don't even know if it's been a year, who's just now finding out this thing about herself? She doesn't know anything. She loves her father, and that's okay. As a parent, we know things about our significant others, especially in situations where, you may have parted ways and things of that nature that you don't reveal to your children because you want to protect your kids. And your kids may forever and always see that person that may have done certain things as this beautiful person who does no wrong, but it's all right. Let them figure it out for themselves, because in time, the truth comes to light. So let her figure things out for herself rather than just like trying to just throw yourself and Bill and whoever else on her. So later we see Carolyn, Gary, Heather, and Ben at the mall. Carolyn has gotten in contact with one of her brothers. His name is Verlin. Verlin, in my opinion, seems sketchy too, because here you are, you're the older brother, and you're coming here to meet your sister at the mall who's struggling, and you're talking about you lost your wallet. Does she have any money she could give you? And she gives you, $18. The last $18 that the child had in her pocket, because we know Nikki made her quit the job. So he shows up to meet her, and he brings his wife and he brings his child. And that is when we see that his wife is Rhonda. I was shocked because I've been wondering this whole time. So y'all got Rhonda going to Vegas and we don't see her anymore. And now here Rhonda's back claiming that the baby that she has is Verlin's. I'm glad she's back because I wondered what happened to her. But this is weird because out of all people, how did you meet him? Did you meet him in Mexico? Like, where was he living when you all met? There's so many questions that I have, right? I just don't know if Rhonda means well. Now, Rhonda claims to have turned over a new leaf, but I don't know. She's apologetic for the mean things that she's done and that she said in the past. She even looks at Heather and tells her, I'm sorry for the things that I've said, talking about your desires or your possible desires for the same sex, when it's clear that Heather and Ben here got something going on, that they're getting close, because she even says to Heather and Ben, I'm glad that you two found each other. In the way that Rhonda speaks, I'm so glad that you two found each other. But I don't know, as I said, if I believe this change in Rhonda. Ben asks, whose baby is that? And she finds that to be offensive. But I too wonder, because we don't know what Rhonda has been up to. And the fact that he asked that question makes me wonder what Rhonda and Frankie were doing. What happened to Frankie? Back to this. So towards the end of the episode, we see Rhonda and Verlin go to meet Albie. They are there to demand $50,000 basically for Rhonda's pain and suffering. What did Rhonda do with the money that she was given previously to go away? She tells Albie that she went through a lot after she left, that she couldn't even be a waitress because of all the things that, was going on. So she had to become a dancer. She had to dance for money because old Roman ruined her. Albie is looking at her like, girl, you can't fool me. He says, who do you think you're dealing with? Because her sob story may work for her husband, but it's not going to work on him. Rhonda and her husband, Verlin, have abandoned the principal. She tells the others that, and she lets Albie know that. But she's there to come and get things that, she's due. And she says that over time, she's come to terms with who she became due to what Roman has done to her. Here's the thing. I'm not going to sit here and act like the things that Rhonda went through did not alter who Rhonda could have been. Because I think that Rhonda, from very early on, from when she was young, based on the interaction that we saw briefly with her and her mother, that Rhonda was in a situation where she did what she was told, even though she wasn't necessarily sure if she believed it. I think that she was worked on for a long time. I think that she was groomed for a long time. And I do believe that Roman did affect her. Now, I'm not going to say that that's a excuse for what she's done, but it's very real. And I could understand how some of her actions were hers trying to survive, right? So Albie lets her know that he's not giving him anything, right? He says that this is the most pathetic shakedown that he can imagine. And it really is. Verlin threatens to take Albie to court, but Albie isn't worried about it because at this point, she's not going to be believed because so much stuff has already happened when it comes to that. And Roman isn't there. So are they going to take things out on Roman or are they going to take things out on Juniper Creek? I don't know. So he dismisses them, tells them that they need to get out, that they don't know who he is. He's Albie Grant. He's Albert Grant. Like, you better get out of my office, basically. And as they walk out, you see a look between Verlin and Albie that makes me wonder what their story is, because that look had me wondering, like, okay, do y'all got previous beef? Do you guys have previous dealings? Like, what's the story with you guys? Because something's there. So let's go to Margene again. It's nighttime. She's telling Bill how she's struggling, with the change, that she's noticed some differences, and not just the family, but them, that, he's not even looking at her when they're having sex. Here's the thing. He's not looking at you. But I don't know how long it's been. I'm going to assume it's been a couple of weeks since the whole Christmas thing. And the fact that he knows that you married him at 16 and he's still not struggling to be intimate with you. I mean, obviously, he's not too bothered by the situation. I think Bill feels like he's supposed to be bothered, but what's done is done. Now, how I would act in that, I don't know. I personally, really, if I didn't before, I'm definitely going to do it now. I'm going to be checking IDs. No, I wouldn't even have to do that, because I would never want to deal with someone that's that young. It just, that's gross. Gross. Okay, back to this. So he says, we're fine. I look at you, we're fine. And we later see Margene waking everybody up extra early in the morning to try to have her version of church. And she tells Nikki, for 5 years, Nikki, I haven't been on the program, and now I'm getting on the program and you still got a problem with it, which would mean that Margene is only around 21 if she got married when she was 16. So Bill being upset about Ben and what happened with them, and Bill wondering why maybe Sarah and them didn't look at her like a mother and all those other things, just shows you how crazy it is to think that they should be okay with this situation, because this little girl is literally a little girl. Like, she's just now becoming a woman. She's just now becoming legal enough to even buy alcohol. And I just feel like it's just such a mess. So Nikki tells her that her attempt to atone without taking responsibility is meaningless, while Margene is talking about how age doesn't matter and how Joseph Smith did it too. And I'm just so over this whole situation, because it is what it is at this point. And y'all not going to do anything, because Bill, you already heard, Bill's being back intimate with her. So y'all women are more upset about it than Bill is, which is insane. But that goes to show you, like Don said, that Bill just wanted, but Bill wanted. We'll get to it. So we see Bill. So the next day, Bill and Barb head to the Capitol. He's all excited to see where his desk is. Bill has an intern. His intern's name is Stewart. Stewart doesn't feel like he needs to address women. He doesn't even look at Barb. He doesn't care for Bill. I mean, Barb will ask him a question, and rather than answering her, he'll turn to Bill and answer Bill. So there's no respect there when it comes to Barb. And it has to be because she's a woman. He says that he's LDS and he goes to BYU. And at this point, when Bill hears that, he's like, oh, so you know who he's like, yeah, I know who you are. And I'm trying to figure out if I even want to work for you. So Barb points out to Bill that Stewart isn't even looking at her, and that he barely speaks to her, and that he ignores her as she's asking questions. And Bill's response to this is, he's just trying to impress me. I'm confused. How does ignoring your wife equate to impressing you? What about him not acknowledging your wife is impressive to you? I'm just wondering. But it goes back to Bill, in my opinion, believing that a woman should know her place. And he doesn't like how much Barb sometimes tries to take on his role as that priesthood holder. So Barb's like, he's only speaking to my priesthood holder, which is you. Bill feels like she's just being sensitive. But the truth of the matter is, Bill himself at times doesn't even see that he too has some misogynistic ways, that he too doesn't always respect women. My opinion, tell me yours. Bill talks to the Senate Majority Leader, tells him that if he keeps running his mouth and talking to the press, it's not going to be good. That's what well, I can't remember if Bill said it that way or if the Senate Majority Leader said it that way, but I know that he was like, look, I want you to stop doing all these press runs and talking about me and saying my name. It's not good. It's not a good look. I don't want to hear my name when it comes to what you're doing, right? He tells him that the committee bill is poised to impeach you the second that you're sworn in. See, Bill's not listening, because he's telling you things here. He already let you know weeks before that they're going to be gunning for you come January. Here it is January, and you still don't get it, that these people do not want you at their table, and they're going to find a way to remove you. Bill, of course, makes it be known that, he'll fight it. He says, I'll fight it. That I'll have this thing tied up in trial so long. Bill, that's the problem. Once again, you don't realize who you're up against. He's told that Representative Buckley, I believe that's Midge, has 14 co-sponsors for her bill, meaning you in trouble. So we then later see Bill go to the Attorney General, whose name is Jeff, and he's trying to plead his case, but Jeff is like, at this point, there's nothing that I can do. That if this goes through, I'm going to have to prosecute you, or I could risk getting into trouble. Bill's like, look, you got some stuff coming up, and, if you don't, help kill the polygamy bill, then your stuff isn't going to get passed. Soon as he said it, I said, Bill is dumb. Bill is dumb. You can't walk around making idle threats. Number one, you don't have that much power. Number two, this is the Attorney General that you're talking to. And these people talk, and they're going to make an example out of you. They may even be able to give you more time if you're sworn in and if you take an oath. Because you just found out that your wife wasn't legal age to be married. We know that one of the things that the oath says is that you can't commit any felonies. And Bill, in marrying Margene, you committed a felony. So this is going to be good, and they are going to get you. Senator Barnes is appalled at Bill for bribing and blackmailing the Attorney General. He can't believe how low Bill is willing to go. And Bill's like, that's what Mormons are. Y'all are all liars. I was like, Bill, what are we doing here? They go on TV, and they lie about this and they lie about that. And it's okay to lie. No, what are you teaching? Y'all can't say that it's okay to lie for the convenience of lying. Y'all got to stop playing around like this with people. Whether you believe in a higher power or not, there is something that is real, and it is integrity. And this is why I said in the beginning, I don't feel like Bill has any. He doesn't always have a moral compass, even though he tries to present himself as he does. Enough of that. Let's go to the next thing. Adeline. She's back to her old tricks. Every single time I feel sorry for this woman. She always reminds me that she too is not a good person either. That she takes her surviving, her making it, her being back in her son good graces to hell. Because now that you're back in his good graces, you want to sit here and cause trouble for others. You want to, move pieces the same way that you did for Roman when you got Kathy unalive. Because I still haven't forgotten that, and I almost did, but this situation reminded me of that, right? So Safety Net has set up a place for people to come and get aid, to get help, to get assistance. And Adeline is doing her version of staking out the joint 10 feet away, intimidating people. She's taking pictures of women, or of anyone, but it's mainly women, who try to go to the Safety Net group for help, which makes them scared as they approach the building and they run away. This is coming from a woman that last episode herself was excited about getting help. So you would think that she wouldn't be doing this, but she's all about herself. Right? She's a chameleon. She's going to do whatever she has to do to get whatever she has to want to make sure that she can survive. So Nikki sees this and she tells her mother, shame on you. as a gentleman comes out and says she's intimidating anyone that is brave enough to seek help from the state. Adeline is talking about, their interest in making sure that the state doesn't twist things when it's really you all that are twisting things. You all have twisted things from day one. You have had your mind warped because of the brainwashing that has occurred in this cult, and you don't even see it for yourself. And here you are once again keeping other people who are trying to be freed bound. She too is a problem. The state, in my opinion, may have its issues, but they're not trying to plant false memories in these people. It seems like they're legitimately trying to help people. She's like, Adeline says, this is what the state does. They try to plant false memories because, early marriage is hard enough. And, these people are vulnerable and they don't need this. They don't need the state interfering. And Albie, of course, comes out, right? And Nikki tells Albie, like, I know about your brand of intimidation. I know who you are. I know what you do because I myself was a victim too. Albie tells her, you weren't a victim. Let me quote this. You were a lamb in a pastel frock, skipping merely off to the slaughter. I mean, altar. I said, what? You love your sister so much. At least that's what you said last season. You guys have been screwed up by your parents and all these other things. And now you come back and you make a joke of the fact that she was forced to be married to an older man, that she was put in the joy book at a young age by her father, that despite not wanting to be married to this man, she was married to this man, and then he was able to bed her, even though it's not something that she wanted. And you say that she skipped off merely to the slaughter, because that's the way at your core you view women. Nikki says, it's because I was brainwashed, meaning I did what I was told was my duty because I was brainwashed. I listened to Papa when Papa told me that I was going to get married to this man, even though I didn't really want to be married to this man, because I was brainwashed and I was intimidated, and it was beat into me that this is what I had to do in order to make it to a celestial kingdom. Her mother is listening to this. And as Nikki is saying she's brainwashed, her response is, I hate that term. But that's exactly what it is. Nikki tells Albie he's evil, while Albie feels like she is, because her and her husband took his family. You took my sons. You took my Thomas. What's the deal with Albie and Thomas? Like, is that your oldest son? Like, what's the deal with you and him? And I'm not saying he's doing anything inappropriate. Understand me when I say that. I just want to know, like, what's so special about Thomas? Like, is that who he sees as his successor? Like, what's the deal with that? So Nikki says he's taking their mom. He basically lets Nikki know, that I'm going to get you and I'm going to get your husband. And Nikki can't understand why her mother is doing this. She's like, Mom, I understand why you went back. I get why you felt like you had to do that, but I don't understand why you're doing this. Like, why you're trying to help him come after us and why you're coming after these people. And Albie kisses her, the mom, right? And it's creepy. Because he's doing this to show Nikki, like, yeah, she may run to you when she's in trouble, but no matter what, I'm going to have her. Enough of that. So Barb goes to this fashion show held by the First Lady of Utah. Cindy is helping out, but she doesn't even know what the event is for. She does not want Barb there. She does not want the wives there. She does not want Barb pushing her agenda for, what did she say, Neanderthal abusive cults, or her priesthood theories, because her mother informed her of what Barb said about the priesthood. Barb says, look, you don't got to worry about the sister wives. I'm going to be here by myself. But she won't, because what ends up happening is Nikki figures out and she snitches on her to Bill. So we see Nikki tell Bill that Barb blames him and his animal urges for all this mess, that Barb is humiliated by him, that Barb implied moral debauchery and sees this like Bill was seducing Marge. And I said, this is what you thought, Nikki. You always put stuff on other people first before you add, yeah, I may have felt this way too, but Barb feels this way now. Is what Nikki thought. So Bill's like, did Barb really say that? I think she said it and she implied it. Nikki says, yeah, I used to feel that way too. Heavenly Father creates urges in men and strong needs for men to do their business. That Barb's ashamed. And that whole thought is insane to me, that men are the only people with urges, that women can't have urges too. Nikki, have you never felt an urge? Do you not know what it feels like to be attracted to your man? Because we saw you feel an urge when you kissed the DA. But maybe you're forgetting all of that. We haven't really seen you had that many urges with Bill until more recently. And I still think that came out of nowhere. So she's saying, that Barb is embarrassed of them and that her and Margene wanted to go to the event, but Barb didn't want them to go. And Bill's like, wait a second. She told me that. She's like, no. Don't you get it? Don't you get what she's doing here? So Bill's like, okay, that's what she's trying to do. Y'all need to go. What we later find out is that Barb is there because she wants to talk to the First Lady, because she wants to join her interfaith council, and that she does kind of have an agenda. So she meets the First Lady, Mrs. Linton. This is the same lady who embarrassed her years ago when Barb was supposed to get that Mother of the Year award, and she found out that she was a polygamist, and she basically told her she had to get off the stage. So now here she is again, and they're meeting back, and Barb's like, years later, here we are. And she says, we may not be Catholics, but we are one up on the Scientologists. And she tells her, I want to be a part of your group. And she's like, well, what does your church have to offer? And she's like, our church will be a church that values women and their relationship with the Heavenly Father. I don't really know if that's true, Barb, but Barb has got an agenda. So hearing this piques the First Lady's interest. Nikki and Margene arrive, and they make a little bit of a scene, but not too bad because the people around them are still talking, even though I feel like they're really, really loud, right? Cindy pulls First Lady to the side. Barb pulls them to the side. So Nikki and Margene arrive. Nikki starts her little rant saying that I had to tell Bill, what you lack the courage to do, Barb, which is that you, Barb, you blame Bill, you blame him for corrupting and seducing March. Barb grabs her and pulls her and is like, I never said that. Was I angry at myself? Yes. And I was sad and I was lonely and I felt excluded when it came to you and to Bill. And I was unhappy in my marriage and I didn't like it. And for me, Margene made me happy. She admits where there were times where she lacked the courage for her convictions, meaning times where she knew what they were doing was wrong or where she didn't agree with what they were doing, but she went along with it because that's what she's been told to do. She admits that deep down inside, she may have known that Margene was not the age that she was saying she was. Well, duh. We knew that from the first episode when we saw her kissing all up on Bill. Like, it didn't take a genius to figure out the girl was young. Nikki, of course, can't handle it when she's being ganged up on or where she feels like she's not Barb's number one. So she basically alludes to Margene being loose, talking about we ain't no telling how many men she's thrown herself at, how damaged her goods are. I hate that we talk this way about women, but it is not often done when it comes to men. Get over yourself, Nikki, and people like Nikki. There is a reason why I can't go back and forth with people, because when I was watching this scene and when I saw how Nikki was speaking on Margene and what Margene may have done and who Margene may have thrown herself at and Margene being damaged goods, I personally would have knocked Nikki to the floor. I got to be honest. Don't disrespect me. Don't do that. And she has a way of demeaning Margene and feeling like her words, her abuse, because it's verbal abuse, is okay. Her emotional abuse is okay. It's okay for Nikki to do it to other people, but she can't handle it when it's done to her. And Nikki has been through things herself, so you would think she would, handle that with a little bit more care. So Nikki claims she isn't the only one that feels that way, that Bill does too. Like I said before, Nikki always goes too far. We saw that earlier, that Bill told Nikki he wants her to stop being mean to Margie. But Nikki isn't about to listen to her priesthood, which is interesting because she's the very person who always wants to check everyone else when they're not doing it. So Nikki complains that Margie joined the marriage under false pretenses, that she was a child. Margie is still making excuses. She tells Nikki that she isn't Nikki, that she knew what she wanted. Nikki tells her at 16, no one really knows what they want. In my opinion, Nikki's right when it comes to that in a relationship. You may know what you want, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it's going to play out. And it also doesn't mean that it's healthy, right? So Margie says that she did, that she wanted out in any way that she could get out. And that's the point that Margine isn't getting. You wanting to get out of your mother's home, you wanting to get out of that terrible situation doesn't mean that your out should have been marriage. Your out should have just been you getting out and you becoming a person who could function on your own. But that's not what you did. Instead, you tried to fill this void with this family. That's not really that healthy. Margie apologizes for Nikki having a rough experience and for her having a rough sex life the first time around. And Nikki's like, look, I don't want to talk about your sex life, my sex life, what you got going on now or later with Bill. I just want you to understand that I was a victim of a system, Margie, and you are a perpetrator. Now, I don't believe that part. Margie's like, it can't always be victim or perpetrator. There has to be something else there. I feel like Bill and I were in love, and my abuse isn't your situation. You know, I'm normal. You were abused too. You were abused in other ways. You were neglected in other ways. And Margine doesn't see that. Because the fact that you think that it's normal for a 16-year-old to be with somebody who is 25 years older than her shows that there's a problem here. I understand that there are relationships that have significant age gaps that do work. There's some of my family, but those significant age gaps weren't happening when you were talking about a teenager. The significant age gaps were happening when one person was in their 40s, their early 40s, and another person was in their 50s, or whatever the case may be. But it won't happen. Man, my mama and might not be a good example. I was going to say my mother and my stepfather were 17 years apart, but they got together when my mother was in her late 30s, early 40s. So like, that's on you at that point. You're an adult, whatever. But when you're talking about a 16-year-old and somebody who's 25 years older, no, there's a problem there. We later see Margie ask the women why they are ashamed of polygamy now. And Barb snaps and says, because you were 16 years old and in bed with my husband. Thank you, Barb. Age matters when you're only 16 and you're sleeping with a grown man that has a wife and kids and all these other things. Now, I don't think you should be sleeping with him anyway, but I'm just saying, like, you were young. We're going to get back to them. Let me go to Lois right quick. Lois broke my heart in this episode. Lois is going downhill and it's happening extremely fast. She's having all these tests ran, and it's discovered that not only does Lois have dementia, but she has herpes. So when Barb suggests that they let Frank know what's going on, Bill, of course, gets very upset, saying no, telling Barb that it's his fault that they're in this situation in the first place. So later we see Bill tell Lois that she has dementia. She wants another opinion. Lois can't understand it, how this would happen, because this doesn't run in their family. Lois walks off, but she comes back to later hear Bill and Barb talking about what Frank gave her. And she says, what did Frank give me? And he tells her, look, Mom, the reason that you got dementia is because Frank gave you herpes. Lois says, he gave me VD? I don't believe it. Give me a shot and fix it. Bill lets her know it's too late. It's been untreated too long. Now, I did not know that was a side effect or that could be correlated with dementia. That's insane. I need to look it up. But according to the show, that is what they're saying. And Bill lets her know, it's too late. it's gone untreated for too long. And the way that my heart broke for her in that moment, because there is a very real possibility that this has happened in this community to others. You have a man sleeping. You have a man putting his appendage in various women. There is bacteria that happens. There's all types of exchange of fluids that could be harmful to one person and not to another. We all have varying sensitivities. There's soaps that my niece can use that I can't use, and vice versa. Like, we see this even with what we do on our skin, like on our face, right? My skin is very, very sensitive. My son's is too. If my son does like this to himself, he gets a huge welt. Whereas I might get a little bit of red irritation, but he gets a whelp from it. So we have varying things. And with that being said, he's going from woman to woman, and he is gross. We've seen Frank do things like pee in the kitchen sink. So you know he's not clean down there, and he's passing on various things to these women. And my question is, now that you know this and this woman has found out, have you informed the other wives? Because he has other wives. Jodine is young and she has a son. The other wife, I can't remember where she's at, but she has, there's other wives. Do they know? So we see Lois later on, and she's standing outside with her head to the fence. And Nikki comes outside because she sees her, and she says, "It's all been a waste. It's all been a waste of time. I'm filthy." And in that moment, I think she was herself. Barb comes out, and it switches back to, the dementia, and she's talking about how she doesn't have good shoes. But really what it is she's been let down by this belief system. She's been let down by Frank. She's been let down by the priesthood holder. And it's just really, really sad. Really, really sad. You see Ben thank Heather for being cool despite how messed up his family is, and they end up kissing. Let's go to Dawn. Bill and Dawn are at the casino. Seems like they've worked out a deal with the tribe. They don't have full control of managerial stuff, but they're going to be getting more power. I'm guessing more funds. He tells Dawn that they needed this, especially because of what's been happening with Margene. This is when he lets him know, because Dawn's like, could you tell Marge that she got to stop trying to sell this stuff to Peg? We're already having a rough time it is, and I don't need that sour drink and all that stuff, because all she's doing is selling it to other people that she knows who really are struggling themselves, and who they got to sell it to, I don't know. That's how MLNs work. Anyways, so he's like, I can't really tell her anything right now. And he lets Dawn know that, Margene was 16 when we got married. And Dawn immediately is like, I'm so over this fool. Dawn is over him. He is over him. He is fussing at Bill, basically saying, this is on you. You should have looked into it. And he's like, I don't need a lecture right now. And Dawn's like, you don't? He says, you got all of these things aimed at you. And at this point, our fates are in your hands. He says, you were obsessed with Margie. And your obsession had nothing to do with her intellect or her beliefs. I saw, oh! I gotta be honest, y'all. When he said that, even when I just read it, I said, yes, yes, yes. Dawn, call him out, Dawn. Call him out. Let it be known. You're not going to keep playing in my face, Bill. He ain't say that, but I'm saying it. Dawn is like, you're not going to keep playing in my face. You're not going to keep acting like I don't see this thing for what this thing is. I see this thing. May I see your ear me? He sees it. And you're not going to play with him. You're not going to play with him. Because everything, and he says it, everything that you're doing is affecting us. And he walks off, and he's right. I don't blame him. So Bill's at the Capitol, right? He just finished arguing with the senator about bribing the attorney general, because he tells him, do you realize that I can have you impeach? I can get you arrested for the crap that you're doing. Senator is pissed. Bill is pissed. He walks off. He's outside. Margene pulls up. She sees him in the parking lot. puts her thing in reverse to talk to him, right? She's talking to him about the things that Nikki said, saying that Nikki told me why you can't look at me in my face, Bill. You know, I never threw myself on another man. I may have babysat other families, but I never threw myself at another man. And he is like, look, I'm not trying to do all this. I'm not trying to talk to you about this. Not right now. He's talking about her shirt and how provocative it is because it's low. And we've seen Margie wear things like, we're not going to do this right now. Not right now. So he walks off and she is upset. She goes to drive off, but she forgets that her car is in reverse and she hits her husband with the car. I said, how you gonna tell your husband you love him in 1 minute and the next minute you take him out with the car? So he goes to the hospital. All the wives are there and they're on his nerves. We find out that he was knocked out for 30 minutes. He has a concussion. He's so over all the bickering. He tells them to leave. He needs quiet. He has this dream where he's talking to Joseph Smith's wife, Emma Smith, as he walks through Lois's home, and Emma's there and it's all decked out and she's talking to him, and she goes, there were no underage wives and blah, 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 yada, yada, yo. I don't really understand the significance of that moment. You all let me know if you get it, because some of you all see things that I don't see, and I appreciate that in you, right? So the swearing in gets moved up. When they find out Bill is in the hospital, Barb heads to the hospital to warn him he's getting tests. She tells Nikki he needs to hurry up and get there. She grabs Margine to try to stall, right? She's there. They won't let her get on the floor. She fires the intern to take his pass so her and Margie can go on the floor. They begin to talk, and Margine's like, what you're doing is wrong. And Bill ends up making it there in time, right? He gives this whole speech about this not being right. And he's reminded of what being sworn in means. That he's about to swear his allegiance to the Constitution that he is already breaking rules for. He makes a big case about how true Mormons follow the laws of the higher power, not the laws of the state, not the laws of the land. So the music is playing as he walks up to take his place. And, the family is clapping and cheering as he's sworn in, and his mother gets to see it. And I'm looking and I said, oh, Bill, you better enjoy this moment, buddy, because it's a wrap for you. So at the end, I'm chuckling because Bill goes to hit the elevator button and he doesn't even have access to that button. Now, I don't know if he's supposed to swipe his card, because I know at my job, when I go to my particular area, I got to swipe my little badge and whatever else to get into it, and yada, yada, go. So I don't know if it's that situation where he didn't have his badge and he didn't swipe it or whatever. But either way, there's a members only sign and he hits that button and it does not open. I laughed because I think that they've accomplished, or they think that they've accomplished something that they haven't. So he's walking out into this dark hall. And as he's walking out, I'm saying to myself, Bill is breaking the law. These people aren't happy. These people are so miserable. And I have a feeling that it's only going to get worse because charges are coming his way. Guys, there was a lot in this episode. I know I was a little bit longer this time, but I wanted to make sure that I covered some things because there were some things. What do we think about Rhonda coming back the way that she did? And what do we think is going to come next as far as Bill's concerned? Because I see that they're going to go for Bill. They are going to get Bill. Bill, you better enjoy what you got right now, buddy, because they're going to come after you. And there's multiple people gunning for him. He has the senators gunning for him. He has representatives gunning for him. There were people out there protesting before he even got sworn in. Right? They were walking out as Barb and Marge were coming in. So there's going to be some kickback from this. Marilyn, like we don't know what's going to happen with the casino. Where's Tommy and Jerry? Justice for Tommy and Jerry. Like, there's so many things. Anyways, you all, I'm rambling. Thank you guys so much for this. I don't know how many more episodes that we have in this, but this is the last season. After this, I am probably going to, because it was suggested, going to be reviewing I don't know how many wives. something, My Five Wives, I don't know. He got a whole bunch of wives. I have not watched a single episode. I do see that I can watch it though because it's on HBO. So at some point I'm going to give it a look. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I do not remember what day this is. Oh, Friday. This will be uploaded on Friday. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your family. For those of you who celebrate Easter, have a happy Easter. If you don't see me until after, until next time.